Hello and welcome to Dialogue. This year marks the 80th anniversary of China's victory in the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and World Anti-Fascist War. A new documentary, Mountains and Rivers Bearing Witness, has recently been released nationwide. It offers the first comprehensive cinematic account of China's 14-year struggle in the war, highlighting the country's role as the main battlefield in Asia and documenting the resilience and sacrifice of the Chinese people. What is the story behind the documentary? What sets the film apart from past portrayals of the war? What untold stories does it reveal? And what message does it hope to give to future generations? To find out more in the first half of the program, I'm glad to be joined by Yu Peng, General Director of the documentary. In the second half of the program, I'll also be joined by Evan Kale, American donor of Japanese war crimes photo album, to continue our talks. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qianduo. Hello and welcome to Dialogue, Mr. Yu. Mountains and Rivers Bearing Witness, the name of a documentary, is the first actually comprehensive cinematic account of this 14-year war of resistance against Japanese aggression. And you mentioned the three core values, or core values in three phrases. The first, the comprehensive account, and 14-year. Tell us more on that.
是这样啊，全景是14年，我们对它的读解是
First, the comprehensive aspect of our film means that we are not presenting the Chinese War of Resistance against Japanese aggression as an isolated event, but situating it within an international framework. This means examining the relationship between the Eastern Front and the global anti-fascist war, as well as the intertwined struggles between the war in China and the broader international community. We analyze how these dynamics collectively impacted the war. That's how this documentary is different from past works. We understand the war of resistance through an international lens. This is what comprehensive signifies. Second, 14 years. For a long time, we referred to the war as the 8-year war of resistance. However, over time, our understanding has evolved, and we now recognize that it should be dated back to 1931, with the September 18 incident, which marked the beginning by the firing of the first shot in the War of Resistance. So, counting from that time to 1945, it represents a 14-year period. While many films have explored similar themes before, this is the first to present a comprehensive overview of the Chinese people's 14-year War of Resistance. The reason we titled the film Mountains and Rivers Bearing Witness is that we believe mountains and rivers signify the soul and roots of our nation. They stand eternal and unchanging. In the past, our forebears courageously laid down their lives and passionately defended these lands. When they fell, they became part of these mountains and rivers. We all know that the transformation from a shattered land to a prosperous one came at the cost of countless precious Chinese lives. The bones of these heroes now rest near these mountains and rivers, and thus we say the mountains and rivers bear witness. They are now part of the land, having participated in and witnessed the history of the past. At the same time, the mountains and rivers themselves are unchanged. They continue to witness the present.
山河为证，他们是山河的一部分，他们参与见证了过去的历史，但同时呢，山河不变，他们也在见证当下。
Well, during the process of producing the movie, your crew went to many places in China. For example, Changbai Mountain in northeastern part of China, Pingshan County, Hebei, and Shenzhen in southern China, and to retrace the footsteps of the Chinese armies like the Northeast Anti-Japanese United Army, the 8th Road Army, the new 4th Army, and the Southern Counter-Japanese guerrilla forces. Among these many journeys, which stories moved you the most?
重返这些当年战争发生的地方。
Returning to the places where the war took place, we discovered that the history and memories have never been forgotten. Whether it's the local governments or the local people, those memories are still preserved. One story that deeply moved us was when we went to Huayin District in Huai'an City in Jiangsu Province to film the story of the 82 martyrs of Liuliaozhuang. These were 82 soldiers of the new Fourth Army who, in order to protect the villagers and fellow soldiers, fought fiercely against Japanese forces more than 10 times their size in a trench battle. They fought from dawn till dusk and ultimately all sacrificed their lives. This story left a profound impression on us. When you realize that our soldiers truly used their flesh and blood to block the advance of the Japanese invaders, and they did so without retreating, just to buy more time for the villagers and fellow soldiers to escape, once you understand this process, it deeply moves you. Even today, the local people still do something every year to commemorate those 82 martyrs.
直到现在，这个当地的群众仍然会自发的去纪念这82位这个烈士每年都是如此
Well, the documentary also touches upon this cooperation, coordination, and let's say, in a sense, unity of the Chinese troops working together with the international assistance. In the documentary, you mentioned, for example, the Soviet voluntary group and the American Flying Tigers. For the first time, they disclosed the details of those flights. And also, the documentary underscores the Chinese contribution to the international war, let's say, against those fascists. For example, the Chinese Expeditionary Force in Myanmar. So, together with the Flying Tiger, etc., what kind of, meaning, or how do you understand, if you look at the stories today, 80 years later, given what's happening around the world, kind of like uncertainty, instability, rise of unilateralism. But 80 years ago, we worked together to defeat the fascism, the militarism. And so how do you understand that?
战争，它是一个文明永远的一个敌人，而且它不是。
War is the eternal enemy of civilization, and it isn't limited to targeting just one nation, race, or language. It is a tremendous harm and a huge obstacle to the progress of all humanity. Whenever war breaks out, we find that humanity reaches a consensus. We unite and fight shoulder to shoulder. This was evident during the Chinese People's War of resistance against Japanese aggression, whether it was Soviet Air Force volunteers or the American Flying Tigers coming to China to join the fight, or the Chinese Expeditionary Force who went to Myanmar to help local people to fight against the Japanese, or our assistance to the Allies in obtaining intelligence on the Japanese army. When confronted with the evil of war, we humans instinctively organize ourselves, bound by a unifying force. During these times, no one can escape the devastation of war. So, what can we do? We have no choice but to stand together, face it, and overcome it. I believe human history moves in cycles, and history will repeat itself. Will there be a war again in the future? I think it's likely. Look at the world today. Is it peaceful? Not entirely. Conflicts persist around us. That's why we must reflect on what brought us together over 80 years ago, and how we were able to transcend ideological and racial differences. I believe we did this so that all of us could move forward into the future. At that moment, we shared a common destiny. Does this only occur in times of war? I don't think so. But it should serve as a reminder during peacetime. We are all bound together by a common destiny. If every nation, every race, and every ideology truly recognizes this, we might at least minimize the possibility of war breaking out again.
问题，那可能至少它能在最大程度上避免战争的再出发，再发生。
Well, we are in a period running up to the anniversary, the 80th anniversary of the Chinese resistance war against Japanese aggression, and of course the World War II. during this period of time, there were a couple of other movies, a series, a few of them, like this Dead Rights, Nanjing Photo Studio, or Dongji Rescue. How different is your documentary from those, let's say, story-based movies?
应该这么去说，就是说
It should be put this way. Each form of artistic expression has its own characteristics and functions. The biggest difference between a documentary and a film is its authenticity. We use completely genuine historical footage to narrate the 14-year history, without any fabrication, invention, or even alteration. These authentic images document how our ancestors suffered, fought, and resisted with courage, all truthfully preserved in these images. This history is deeply etched into the archive footage, making it 100% authentic. It cannot be questioned or erased. The footage serves as irrefutable evidence, and it is undeniable. This is the characteristic of authenticity.
这个是不容置疑的，这就是它真实性的特点嘛，
I know this movie is already available for the Chinese audience. Will it also be available for the international audience from other countries?
是这样啊，这部影片的
The film has already been released in China, and an English version is already in production. We hope to share it with more countries because the war of resistance against Japanese aggression that took place in China is not solely a part of Chinese history. It's also a significant chapter of the global anti-fascist war. The 14-year war of resistance is not just a memory for the Chinese people. I believe it should be a collective memory of all people around the world. Therefore, I feel it's both necessary and essential for this film to be released internationally so that more people around the world can learn about this history.
有外国的朋友能够知道。
Thank you, Mr. Yu. Thank you. Welcome back. To find out more about the World Anti-Fascist War, previously I also talked with Evan Keel, American donor of Japanese war crimes photo album. Hello, Evan. Welcome to Dialogue. I know some people are familiar with your story. For those who are not that familiar, tell us when and how did you discover, this photo album, what happened to this photo album, all the reactions there?
So I am a social media figure in America too. I go by the name Pawn Man. It's a play on pawn shops. I don't actually own a pawn shop. My business, St. Louis Park Gold and Silver, buys and sells. We mainly deal with precious metals, but we also deal in collectibles. So I use my following for business, and people mail me items from other states. I make a video about going through it, the intrigue of it. I buy it for profit, and then I sell it. And people would advertise all kinds of stuff to me. I had about 100,000, 200,000 followers, something like that, on American TikTok. When in August of 2022, I received a photo album from somebody that said, I got this photo album. My dad had it. It's been in the attic forever. There's some really disturbing pictures in here. And so I got this thing. And when I opened it up, a few pages in, I discovered that there's photos of war crimes in there. This really needs to go to a museum. I don't know what I'm looking at. It could be very expensive. I don't have the means to buy this, I don't think, if it's what I think it is, because I thought it was photos of the Nanjing Massacre. So I made a video because I thought if I can turn to social media and get people's attention that way, maybe finally I can have some luck doing the right thing here and getting this in a museum. And then the video just went mega, mega, mega viral like that. It had tens of millions of views inside of a few hours. And suddenly I was in all these American media outlets, and people were saying that I staged the whole thing. And it took a really nasty negative turn really fast. And suddenly I became the boogeyman of the internet. I was getting death threats. I was getting threats against my business, my life, my safety. And this book was like the subject of the internet and me and what I did. It was like the viral video of the moment. But meanwhile, I had Chinese people showing up at my store and paying me tremendous respect for highlighting the events of the Nanjing Massacre, because I didn't realize that I got a great education and I knew all about it, but most people in America and the West, they don't know about this. So I decided right away, okay, I should just figure out a way to buy this myself and donate this to China, because I think that's the right thing to do. And these Chinese people are showing me so much appreciation for highlighting this history. This history is their history. It's not my business to say where in China it goes. I think I should just give it to China and try and do a good thing with this. So I got a lawyer because it's an enormously complicated process interacting with a foreign government as an American. And my lawyer got in contact with the Chinese embassy, and we arranged a donation. It took a couple weeks. But then on November 16th, 2022, the consulate in Chicago sent a representative to come meet me at my lawyer's office. I read him a letter. I donated him the album. And then I received a diplomatic piece of porcelain, which I did not ask for. I still can't believe that I was given that. But I gave it to the consulate because, I thought, well, if I give it to a museum in China, I'm still choosing Chinese history, and that's inappropriate. I should just give it to the government and let them figure out what they want to do with it, rather than me, a white person, say, here's where it goes, here's where it belongs. I don't want to do that.
The photo album, that's very one important part of history. Your decision, I believe, look back, we all would say that's the right decision. You could have made money out of that piece of, book, but you didn't. You devoted it to the Chinese side. I mean,
it would have been blood money. I wouldn't have been able to sleep. My morals are not for sale, and I think that's well, just in general, that's why I'm the right person to do this. I'm not corruptible. I'm not for sale. I have a great understanding of history. I am smart enough to know how to be delicate with all this, because there's a lot going on here. And luckily, I am very well versed in the history and the animosity between China and Japan and all the terrible things that happened in World War II. And I think I know exactly how to conduct myself and do this in a way that is responsible, that is advocating for peace, that is not inflammatory. Because, I do need to be very, very, very careful with the animosity that is still out there. I mean, look what's happening right now in the news with Japan. The far right is starting to take over now. They're re-denying this happened all over again. I'm watching this like tearing my hair out, but luckily I have an understanding of just how delicate I need to be with the situation. And if somebody else was, like me, let's say somebody else had photos and they're trying to mess with this too. Right. They better have a really, really good understanding of just how careful they need to be with all this. And I think I'm the perfect steward to be doing this, because I know the history and I know it well.
I know you visited China for the first time last year. Tell us more about that. Would you call it a healing journey? What made you to draw that kind of conclusion? A healing journey there?
Well, anybody watching this, look no further than my social media account, Pawn Man, on American social media. I'm still called a scammer, a hoaxer, somebody that used a war crime to get famous. People still think that in America about me, and people said some really terrible, terrible things about me. And it's one of the worst feelings to be accused and branded of something you didn't do. I didn't use it. This was not an attempt to get famous. And that's what people still think in America. They think my diplomatic porcelain came off Amazon. They think that's a hoax. So it is just maddening to be accused of that and have that be your image and your reputation when that simply is not true. And it's caused, the whole World War II photo book saga, it cost me so much emotional damage. I started having panic attacks. I sought therapy. I lost like 20 pounds in a few weeks. I really lost my mind.
A lot of pressure.
All this pressure, yeah. So, and then a year after I made the donation, I wrote an essay called Through the Storm, because I wanted these media outlets that ran me into the ground and jumped on this bandwagon of I'm using a war crime to get famous. I wanted them to write a follow-up piece so that I could at least clear my name. And none of them wanted to do it. None of them have given me the time of day. Even still, I've been a top news story in China. Not a single American outlet has ran a story about me or this or what I've done or what I'm trying to do. And it's very frustrating. So coming here to China, I wanted to come pay my respects to the people of Nanjing and be here on Memorial Day. I wanted to introduce myself to China. This Bridge of Peace, it wasn't really my idea when I landed here on November 16th of 2024. But within a week, I realized, there's something really good I can do here. And I think this should be the rest of my life. So this warm reception, how I've been received in China, how I've been treated, has helped me heal. It's really helped me put my pieces together back in my head. And it's been profound to be this well received, to be treated like this. and to have a role that is validating and rewarding in my life. I can't believe what my life has turned into. So that's why the book that I have out now, adapted from my essay, is called Through the Storm, because I went through a storm and I'm out the other side now. I mean,
Yeah,
it is
that's
still
what
very
I'm going to
frustrating.
touch upon in the book you just wrote.
Yeah.
Dare to do Through the Storms. Just in, judging the book by the name here, Dare to Do, obviously you are talking about courage, you're talking about challenges, responsibility, and as an individual.
Right. I was offered all kinds of money for that photo book. Somebody offered to give me a sports car. They didn't say what kind, and I love cars, but even still, at that point, it was never for sale in the first place. The United States State Department, the U.S. government, called my lawyer and they said, "Do not let him donate that book." And I walked in as the ambassadors were about an hour out. I walked into my lawyer's office to talk to him, and he said, "Yeah, the U.S. government called. They want the book." And I was like, "What? What do we do?" He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to give it to them. They're already coming here. It's the right thing." And he said, "Well, then do it. If there's a problem, I'll handle it." And luckily, that was all that came of it. They haven't bothered me about this, but I definitely was intimidated in a lot of different ways to not do this, and I knew it was the right thing to do, and the right thing to do is always what you should do.
You have appeared in various events in China since then, and I know, as you said, you are very popular in China, partly because people respect you for what you have done, the right decision, despite the hardship. You were, at present, a lot of events, including the CMG Spring Festival Gala in 2025, earlier this year. I mean, how do you feel about your new role as being somewhat of a cultural ambassador between, China and the U.S., as you said, referred to earlier? What do you think is most needed today to promote more understanding between countries?
Constructive dialogue. Travel is very important too. Americans are very isolationist. They don't travel. They think they live in a bubble. To be honest, I was a little guilty of that myself before traveling here, because I was not a well-traveled person, and now I am, and it has really opened up my understanding. I love to travel. I love going new places. I love being great situations, bad situations. You're always learning from it. It's very good to travel. It makes you a better person, and that is part of my role and my message and my ethos is travel. Come here. If you think you know China, people in the West, have you been here? If the answer is no, I got news for you. You don't know anything. People have been consuming mass media about China. There's so much fear-mongering in the mass media news about China. I think it's part of what has to do with why my story in America has not been featured at all. Even my local news outlets in Minnesota haven't run a single story about me, which I don't know any other Minnesotan outside of the artist Prince who's put Minnesota on the map like I have in a foreign country. And people in America, or the media in America, doesn't want to share good stories about China because it's part of what they're selling. They're selling fear. They're selling hate. They're selling distrust, because that gets more people to consume your product, and that's just the bias of the media. So I would say a lot of Americans probably have a completely inaccurate understanding of China, and that's because they've consumed nothing but mass media about it. And this hysteria and fear about this country has really given people just an improper idea of what it is. So I'm here encouraging people to come here and travel here, form their own opinions. If you come here, you don't like it, at least you check that out. At least you could say I did. It's really terrible. A metaphor I've been making, I think I actually make it in my book, is it's like the mass media has been selling Americans fast food in regards to what is China. And they've been telling them it's a gourmet meal. And Americans have been consuming this crap for so long, they don't know the difference between fast food and actual gourmet food now.
Unfortunately.
Very much.
I mean, you spend most of your time in China. So how is life like in China? And what does China mean to you?
It's but your guys' infrastructure is really good. I'm honestly a little embarrassed as an American how bad mine is. Case in point, my business in Minnesota, St. Louis Park Gold and Silver, it's on a street called Minnetonka Boulevard. Minnetonka Boulevard for the last almost year now has been doing road construction, and for a year there's bulldozers, there's lost utilities. It's like these workers, they dig a hole, they dynamite the hole, they yell at the hole, they fill the hole back up, and then the next day they do it all over again. So much incompetency just in the construction that's going on outside my store. And I've been thinking to myself, because I went back, I was back in June in Minnesota, and I walked out and I'm looking at this and I'm like, if only this was China. This would be done in 3 days. and it's been a year, and it's just one case of many. Traveling this country, I look at America and I think, why can't we do better like China? Why don't we have high-speed rails? Why don't we have better infrastructure? Why don't we have better insurance, better health care? It's just ridiculous. So it's really been eye-opening to see how this country is, the way of life, and then you think of America and just all the crap that's wrong with it. And for the life of me, I can't understand why things aren't more like they are here, there. It's really maddening.
Evan, as China prepares to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the World War II on September the 3rd, what message would you like to share with Chinese people, with your global audiences about the remembrance, justice, and reconciliation?
History is important. It's important to remember, to keep the truth alive, to discuss the truth for the sake of the teaching tool so that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Genocide still happens today all over the world. And genocide happened then, and this is 88 years ago now. And we're still doing this. And we obviously aren't learning from our mistakes because it still happens. So keeping the truth alive is very important. It's important to discuss and remember history for the honor of the victims and for the dignity of our species. Diplomacy is also important too. It's important to remember that we need to get along, not grow apart. One of my goals with this role, I think our species needs to work together better so that we can get into space, so that we can advance into the next frontier. I think that's what's going to happen this century. But unfortunately, due to conflicts on this Earth sphere, it's massively holding us back from advancing to our true human potential. So I would like people to remember that we should be getting along, not growing apart. Now, unfortunately, due to far-right movements in many different countries, that's not happening. Isolationism is taking over. Denying of history is taking over, as we've seen lately right now with Japan. But I really challenge anybody watching this to do better and think about something constructive, not something destructive.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you for speaking to us.